Just yeah. So in fact, I'm planning not to discuss the algorithms too much. Too much means whatever I discuss, and today I'll also discuss some of the things. From there, you can read other algorithms like the search algorithm or other algorithms. So I discuss almost all the basics which are required to understand these algorithms. Today I'll also discuss some of them, and I think I'll not do because it will take a lot of time. But one can do that. I mean, you can do it yourself. I mean, it is not a big deal. Like, I mean, there are good references, so you can do that. And there are nice video lectures also on quantum search algorithms and other algorithms, the famous algorithms. One can do that, so it is not a big deal. So I'm not planning to, to discuss much more about algorithm, but I'm trying to um, discuss one fundamental part of information processing, or let's say computation, is that you probably have heard of coherence or decoherence, right? So this thing, coherence or decoherence, is very, very, I mean, I'll say constant, or it's a bar. I mean, it's a restriction, okay, for doing a good quantum computation. Meaning like, so the superposition which we're talking about. So achieving a desired superposition state sometimes will be difficult because of the superposition itself, because your like quantum state can interact with some other environment. For example, if your environment is also modeled as a Hilbert space, so then it can also interact with the environment, and then it will not be a desert state. So I am planning to talk about fault tolerant quantum computation, and before that, like maybe some quantum error correcting codes. So then you will understand like how to process information. But in that case, I would need maybe, so I thought like I'll also talk about a little bit of coherence in much more detail, decoherence in much more detail. But I think if I do that, then I'll miss that part. So I'll directly talk about error correcting codes. I mean, quantum error correcting codes. I mean, quantum error correction, like when you process information, how we should, I mean, how we should go about it. And then I'll also try to talk about fault tolerant. I mean, you'll see why is the fault, where is the fault, and how to do quantum computation without, you know, without get into that fault. Okay, so this will be a fault tolerant quantum computation. Yeah. So I'm planning to do that. So yeah. Okay. So let us start today. So today what I'll do is we'll talk about how to evaluate a function. Okay, in a quantum computer. Quantum computer means using quantum gates or maybe quantum circuits. Okay, how to implement a function. By function here, we have all this logic functions, or like uh, binary functions, we can say. Okay, so today we'll talk about how to implement this kind of a function. Okay, like suppose we want to compute this. Okay, so sum 0 1 to the power d. Okay, but anyway, so then what is happening is, so if we have some x1 or x0 x1 to xn minus 1, so this will go to, okay, this will under this f. So f of x, if this is x, then this f of x will be some kind of, so f of x, let's say this will be some kind of, let's say y naught y1 up to yd minus 1. But it is essentially again a function, like, I mean, this can be again treated as, for all x, it can be treated as some function. This y naught itself can be considered as a function, like fx here, f1x here, and then f2x, and so on. So it turns out that, okay, fd minus 1 x, okay, so it turns out that, okay, it is enough to consider functions like this, like 0 1 to the power n to 0 1. Okay, so if we, so suppose I know how to calculate f1, I know how to calculate f2, I know how to calculate fd minus 1 for a given input or set of inputs, let's say 0 and to the power n, then I'll obviously be able to compute f, okay, in terms of this f1, f2, fd minus 1. So the question is, how do I implement this kind of a function in a quantum setup? Okay, now first observe, okay, let me just say like, okay, all these functions, okay, let me consider this kind of functions first, okay, which has two possible outputs, 0 or 1. So how many such functions can be there? Okay, let us ask the fundamental question. I mean, what is the number of such functions? So obviously this is 2 to the power 2 to the power n. This many functions can be there. Okay, so number of functions of this type can be there. So this many, because it's simple, right? So many functions. So it is like set of all function from a set A to B, and A contains 2 to the power n elements, B contains 2 elements, so it is 2 to the power 2 to the power n elements. Yeah, this many functions, logic functions can be there. Okay, now we want to implement this kind of a function in this, but you see this kind of function need not be invertible, so this need not be reversible. Okay, so for example, you can consider, let's say, I mean, if n is, let's say, 2, okay, and then you can consider, let's say, some x on x0, okay, so this is like some x on and x0, okay, so this function, okay, is not 1 1, okay, so we cannot do reversible computation here, so we need to add some extra bits, okay, so yeah, so if we want to implement this function, okay, in terms of let's say a unitary transformation, okay, which will evaluate this function, okay, so then you have to add some ancillary qubit, okay. In fact, the procedure, I mean, the idea is, here is the idea. So the idea is like, okay, suppose, yeah, so let's say, I mean, let's say UF is this corresponding unitary transformation, let's say, which will evaluate this particular F. Then what we'll do is we'll define this UF something like this. So the desired UF, okay, which we want to implement in a quantum setup. So this will be like, and for general n, it could be like, okay, so if I have this xn minus 1, the corresponding qubit representation x naught, okay, and then if I take an ancillary qubit, okay, then UF should give me this one. So and this function is unitary. So it is like, okay, this and this would be this f of xn minus 1 dot 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 x naught, and then possibly we can measure this particular qubit, and then we can get the value of f, okay, and this is, yeah, so this is the setup. So this UF, okay, we'll talk about EF later on. So but here you see for each input, okay, there is of course an output, and for any output there is a unique input, okay, that also you can just check. So this is just check, I will not talk about it, but you can just check it, okay, so just check. So just check that every output has a unique input. Just see the definition of this map, or you can start with like, okay, let us take an example, and you can see like how it is possible. Okay, so now let us say let us fix that. Let me say like I want to implement this kind of functions, okay, in a quantum setup. And let me say, okay, let us fix n equal to 2, just to get an idea, okay, like what happens when n equal to 2. And if we get the idea, so then possibly.
How does every output have a unique input? Because f is from x1 x0 to like to an AND. So that means from size 4 you're going to size 2, right?
This is the input, and this is the entire thing is the output. I said we can measure this.
Okay.
So this is the input, right? This is the input, and this is the output.
Okay.
I said this can be measured to get the value of f of this. Okay, suppose you want to calculate the value. Okay, we'll talk about it. Okay, anyway, we'll talk about it. Okay, so let us see. I mean, if I take n equal to 4, n equal to 2, let's say, how many functions can be there? So there are 2 to the power 2 to the power 2, so which is 16. Okay, so 16 some functions are there. I mean, you can write down some of the functions. Okay. So, I mean, you can have a table. Let's say you can have a table and you can write out all functions. So let's say this is x1, x0. Okay. There are two values. The possible values are 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, and 1, 1. And then you can define what the function is. For example, it could be just everything is 0. Okay. So this is a function. Let's say f1. So f1 for each input, so there is one output only, and that is 0. So then f1 is also is a function. You can talk about something else. So let's some other function. Let's say it is 0, 0, 0, 1. Okay, you can have some other function. Let's say I'm just taking some examples. Okay, because I'll see. Let's say I'll consider these examples and I will see like how this can be implemented. Okay, so I'll not pick many examples. There are 16 maps. Well, let me take some of them. Okay, 0, 1, 1, 0. Let's say. I mean, you can take anything. Okay, so then we'll see how can I implement these functions. Okay, what is happening? Yeah. So we'll see how we'll implement this. So the idea is whenever you have a function like this. Okay, so here f is from 0, 1 square to 0, 1. So this is my function. It's my binary function. Now, what I'm saying here is the following. What I'll see first, for example, I see, let's say f2. Okay. Now, what I'll observe first. So this f is my f2, let's say. So I'll see where is 1 here. Okay. There is only one position 1, and otherwise everything is 0. Similarly, if I consider f3, then I'll see where is 1. I'll notify, I mean, I'll see that for this, let's say input, this f2 has output 1. For f3, similarly, I have 1 here, and the corresponding inputs are like this and this. So this is my first observation, okay? That this is what it is, the function is all about. And I want to implement this function, okay? Now, what I'll do is, so definitely, there may be some input for which the function takes a value 1. So that means what I'm trying to tell you is, I mean, there may not be, like, for example, in the first one, there is no, okay, for which there is any function. Okay, I mean, there is no input for which the output is 1. Okay, that also can be there. But except this, okay, whatever other functions you take, okay, all 15 functions, let's say, and some of them will be like complement of each other. Okay, meaning, so if like f3, f2 is a function, you can also write f2 bar is also a function, like 1, 1, 1, 0. Okay, so what you have to do, if you just somehow implement f2 and then apply a NOT gate, okay, then possibly you can implement also f2 bar. Okay, so you don't have to actually implement all possible functions, because some of the functions are nothing but the complement of the other one. The outputs are the complement of the other function. So it's kind of, yeah. So yeah, so definitely, so for most of the functions, let's say, I always have an output 1 for some particular input. Okay, so this is the first observation. So let us observe this first observation, that for some input there is an output, there is output 1, let's say. This is my first observation. And let's say the input is some let's say some, okay, let me not introduce no notation. So now what we are doing is, so for some particular input there is a particular output. Now I define, in order to implement this, I observe this, that for which input there is an output, and accordingly I define some new functions. Okay, and these new functions are called minterms. Because I did not talk about these things in classical computation, so I'll talk about this a little bit in detail. So this if I would have talked about this thing in classical computation, I would have not done that. But anyway, so let me just talk about something called minterms. Now, what are minterms? Okay, so I'm defining a new function. Now, once I fix a function, let's say my function is f3. Now I observe that f3, okay, there are 4 inputs, 0, 1, 2, 3. I mean, you can also say this is 0, This is 1, this is 2, and this is 3. These are the inputs, right? Now, so there is some j, okay? So j means like I can say 0 to up to 3, okay? J is up to 3. For some j, there is a value, okay? For some j, it is actually equal to, okay, 1. And there can be multiple such j's, okay? Then for those j's, for those input where the functional value is 1, corresponding to that particular j, I'm defining my new function, which is called a minterm. And I'm defining this as a new function, okay, this f3, because it's corresponding to f3. And then I define this function f3j, okay, and this function is that this function value is 1 if x equal to j and 0 otherwise. I'll discuss, I mean, in detail, okay, what is this, what does it mean. Now see, for f3, then what is my f? So then I have two functions. One is f3 where it is non-zero, where it is 1, when j is equal to 1 and j is equal to 2. So then I am saying I define my f1x, f1 function, okay, such that this is equal to 1 if x equal to 1 and 0 if x equal to 0, 2, 3. Similarly, I will define another function because there is one more j for which it is taking the value 1. So I'll write this as f2 and it is corresponding to f3, so that's why I'm writing f3. And so this function is defined in this way. This is 1 if x equal to 2 and 0 if x equal to 0, 1 and 3. Now I'm declaring something. I'm declaring that this f3 x is nothing but this f3 1x or f3 2x for any x. This is my definition now. How it is possible? Now see here, f3 0 means f3 at 0 0 is equal to then, okay, what, f3 1 0 or f3 2 0. But this value is automatically, see, f3 1 means here, this is 1 only when this value is 1. So then this is nothing but 0 or f3 2 0, okay, so this is also 0. So this is 0. So you now see here, this is matched, okay. Now for the second one, obviously, now f3 1 is what? f3 1 is f3 1 1 or f3 2 1. But f3 1 is nothing but 1 and f3 2 1 is nothing but 0. So this is 1. Similarly, f3 2 is f3.
So you wrote f3 of x, f3 of j is defined as 1, right? f3 of j.
1 when x equal to j. Otherwise it is 0.
That is f3 superscript j, right? So the
Yeah. So this is my definition.
normal
So this I
f3
defined,
of j,
okay. So
normal f3 function of j is equal to 1 always, right? Isn't that?
normal f3 of j. No. See, so this is f3. f3 is 1 only when j is equal to 1 and j is equal to 2. Otherwise it is 0.
Oh, okay. So
This is my f3.
okay, so down there you wrote f3 of j is equal to 1.
For such j I'm looking at first. Okay. First,
Okay.
find those j for which this is equal to 1. Okay, so once I found those j's, okay, for such j's for which it is satisfying, for such j, define. Okay, I didn't write it, but I said it. So for when j, I define this function. So this function is defined only when it's called a min term, is defined for those j for which f3 and of j is equal to 1. Okay, so I see that if j equal to 1, then f3 is 1. So corresponding to that, I define this. And I also had seen that f3 is 1 when x equal to 2. So for that j equal to 2. So for that j also I define this function. So I have two min terms basically for f3 because there are two ones. Okay. So once I do that, I'm just checking now. So I am defining this f3 now. I'm realizing this f3 in terms of the min term. So basically the idea is, if I know how to calculate min terms, then I know how to calculate f3, the function. So given any Boolean function, if I know the inputs for which it will give me the outputs 1, then accordingly I can define my min terms. And if I know how to implement my min terms, okay, then using those min terms, I'll implement my original function. So here for f3, I'm focusing on f3. I'm just giving an example. I could have defined it for the general case. I'll do that, but I thought first let me give you an example to get a feeling what I'm doing, because in general there will be a lot of notations. Okay, I want to avoid that. Okay, so for f3, so what I have is, I'm just checking that if this way I define, so I just calculated the min terms, and using the min terms I'm defining my function. And I'm checking that this is actually these two functions, the left hand side and the right hand side, they're equal. The two functions are equal if the corresponding inputs will have the corresponding outputs. Then two functions are equal, right? So okay, so f3 2 is what? So f3 1 2 or f3 2 2. Now f3 1 2 is obviously 0 and this is 1, so this is again 1. And f3 3 is f3 1 3 or f3 2 3. So this is 0 and this is also 0, so this is 0. So that means this defines this function. Okay, so now I am generalizing this idea. So instead of defining that, I first gave you the example. Now I'm defining the idea. Okay, I'm defining the idea. So for any fx, for any function f, identify j's, identify inputs j's. Okay, where j is from, let's say 0 to 2 to the power n minus 1, whatever. Okay, such that f of j is equal to 1. Okay, now for such j's, j, define for any such j, let's say for any such j, define a min term function, just call a min term. Okay, a min term f of j which takes value 1 only when x equal to j and 0 otherwise. Now I am just saying this is we can check, then obvious, this is obvious. I gave you an example, but you can also from the statement you can check that this is, and obviously fx is nothing but, now here is a problem with the notation. Let's say I will write j1, okay, x or fj2x dot 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 f some jm, let's say x. It is always true, okay, where f of j k, let's say k equal to 1 to m are min terms of f. Now why this is obvious, you see this x, okay, so this functional, this min terms, they will take the value 1. So when this fx will be 1, if one of this actually is equal to 1, then fx will take the value 1. Now the min term functions are defined in such a way that they are exactly 1 at those values of x where this min terms are taking the value, same value fx, which is 1. Otherwise it is 0. So if x equal to j1, j2, jm, for those values only if x equal to 1, so they'll this 1 will come either here if x equal to j1, if x equal to j2, here it will come. So depending on what is the value of x is, when x equal to j1 to up to jm, this right hand side will be only one position. At one position it will be 1 and all others are 0. So this is OR. Okay, this is OR. So everything will give you 1. Now when it is 0 in the right hand side, if everything is 0, that means everything is 0 means x is not equal to j1, j2, jm. And so that is 0 means this f itself is 0. Otherwise, fx is 0 only when all these min terms will take the value 0. And these values of x for this, the min terms will give you the output 0. If and only if the input is not equal to j1, j2, jm. So here is the proof. So it's just simple proof, just simple observation actually. So this is always the case. Okay, that fx can be written in terms of this, like logical OR function of some min terms. Now, if I know how to implement min terms, then I know how to implement the function f. Okay, now first let us see f2. Okay, so the quantum circuit corresponding to what is that f2? What was my f2? The value of f2 was at 0. It was, so what was that? Okay, last one is 1. So it is equal to 0. f2 1 is 0. f2 2 is 0. And f2 3 is 1. Okay, so then I can just say fx is nothing but f2 3x. That's it, because there is only one min term here, and that is exactly the function is. So if I know how to implement f2 3, then I am done. Okay, now how to implement f2 3? So I have two inputs here. Okay, I need an extra, say in the beginning I said I need an extra ancilla qubit. So I will add extra ancilla qubit. So I have this, and I have an extra this thing. Let's say this is 0. Now what do I want? f2 3x, and this is 1 only when x equal to 3. Is x equal to 3. Okay, that means x equal to 3. That means only at 1 1 I should have 1, others everything 0. So I'll just write this, then you apply this. Now see, it doesn't matter whatever you take here, psi 1, psi 2. Okay, let's say psi 1 could be 0 1 or psi 2 could be 0 1. So only when it is 1, this one will act. So this is actually the quantum circuit corresponding to f2. This is f2 corresponding to f2. That's it. So now do it for the other one, f3, let's say. So quantum circuit for f3. So f3 we already have discussed. So f3 at 0 it is 0, at 1 it is 1, at 2 it is 1, and at 3 it is also 0. So basically f3x, okay, this is nothing but f3 1x or f3 2x. So I'll implement this using a quantum circuit, and then I'll see what is that. So I need 3. Last one is my output. So f3 1, this is 1 only when x equal to 1. X equal to 1 means 0 1. So this is 0 and this has to be 1. Then I'll apply this one. Other one, the f3 2. So this is 1 only when x equal to 2. X equal to 2 means it 1 0. So this is 1 and this is 0. So I will have this. Now you see, you can check that if I take this to be psi 1, this as psi 2, And whatever the values of psi 1 psi 2 doesn't matter. I'll always get F3 here. I mean, you can check for all possible inputs and check that this is what is. This is what is. So in the circuit corresponding to F3. So now if I give you any function, actually, any binary function, okay, whatever it is. So if I just calculate the corresponding min terms and just I correspond to each min term, actually there is a generalized CNOT gate. So corresponding the circuit is designed by a generalized control NOT gate. I mean, I'm writing some C to the power n or maybe CK, depending. In fact, this will be n because I'm assuming it is, let's say, n qubits. NOT gate, okay, n times control, whatever the controls you want, whether it is 0 or 1, doesn't matter. The state is 0 or state is 1, doesn't matter. Can be designed or can be implemented by generalized CNOT, CN control NOT gate, and that's it.
Sir,
but yeah.
Sir, there was a union, right, between F31 and F32.
Yeah, this union is taken care by this fact that this is this is acting on this one, and this is not equal to this one. So either this, so this means whenever this is acting, the input is acting on this thing. Okay, when this is used, then this is not used. So this will give it the union means or, right? So either
Yes.
this
So
or
that
this.
so we could cascade only in case of this only for this kind of function, but
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is any function, because any function can be written as this.
But if say say f3 of x is also 1, if f3 of x is also 1, then we couldn't do that, right? Cascading then.
Yeah, you can do it. Okay, let us take another function. What you are saying is, yeah. So let's say I have another function. So what did you say? X equal to 0?
0,
Sorry.
1, 1.
Yeah, 1, 1. So then you have 3 min terms.
Then we'll have 3 unions.
Yeah.
But we can't cascade like that, right?
Yeah, we can. F3 equal to 1. Because you see, if these are all control NOT gate, this will not apply. So this particular gate only apply when this is controlled. Like when you have this J here, then only this will apply. This will apply only when this NOT gate will apply only when it is controlled by the other 2 qubits here.
Okay, yeah, right. Okay, so sorry, I was thinking, yeah,
Okay.
Okay, yes.
Okay. So yeah, so here, okay, let me just finish it. So X, this will be like F1, okay, X, F2X, okay, or F3X, that's it. Yeah, so and you can just implement it, yeah. But here is a problem. The problem is this is not an efficient way to do it. Why? Because there are exponentially many functions. So they are, so I mean, let's say 2 to the power n number of, I mean, this n is, let's say, there are 2 to the power n number of inputs, let's say. So for those many, then there can be 1. So this is not an efficient way of doing it. This is a way to do it, but it's not an efficient way to do it. So then the question will be, okay, I'll ask you the question later on maybe. What is an efficient way to do it? This way it can be done, but if n is very, very large, it cannot be done. Because in order to check at which value it is 1, it is itself a difficult problem. If somehow you know that to be equal to 1 and that is of linear size, let's say finite size, okay, I mean linear means let's say n equal to something, okay, n equal to some number, n equal to 15, and let's say number of ones, you have a function f, it is like 2 to the power 10, let's say. At those many position it is 1. That function you cannot implement, because then you need exponential number of this control NOT gate. So which is impractical. So although it is okay to do it, okay, but it grows exponential with n. This min terms, number of min terms. Okay, let me just write it down here. So, however, this is not an efficient way to implement. implement such a function since the number of min terms grows, okay, exponentially with n. Okay, so min terms will also increase, so you cannot have this. So efficiently means it cannot have a polynomial number of gates. Okay, so I want polynomial number of gate here means let's say this control not gate. Okay, so I want this polynomial, but it is not happening here. But there is a way out. Way out means if you are lucky enough. Okay, if you are lucky enough, there is a way out. Although apparently it seems that we need definitely for sure exponential many gates, but it need not be the case. For some function, it is possible to reduce the gate just by observing this position of the gates and see the control, looking at the control bits. Okay, so I'll tell you, and I'll give you an example where you will see that gate, the number of gates, did not be equal to number of min terms. It can be less than number of min terms. Okay, so then there will be another question. Okay, what is the optimal circuit? Okay, then there will be another question. But here apparently it seems that the number of min terms is exactly equal to the number of control not gates. Okay, control means what are the number of controls? Here it is n equal to 2, so there are 2 in c to the power 2 control, not 2 control not gate, let's say. So yeah, so it need not be equal to the number of min terms. It can be less than that as well. For that, I'll give you an example. But here, for at least for n equal to 2 case, it cannot be further reduced. Okay, I mean this cannot be implemented by only one generalized control not gate. Okay. Yeah, so let me give you an example, but for that I have to increase the dimension. So let me just pick a simple example. Okay, so this is an example of a quantum circuit corresponding to a binary function f such that number of c to the power n not gates, okay, is not equal to number of min terms. I mean, it can be optimized. That's my idea, min terms. So let us see a function. Okay, let's say my function is like this. So let's say n equal to 3. Okay, and my function is defined in this way. So there are 3 values: x2, x1, x0. Okay, and here is my function. So let me define this function. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1. First one, yeah, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1. So these are the possible inputs, and let's say my outputs are like 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0. So for this particular function, there are 3 min terms. Okay, for this particular function, there are 3 min terms. So I can just say, like, this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5, this is 6, this is 7. Okay, so yeah, so there are 8 inputs, right? So 0 to 7. So so here fx is nothing but f of 1 min term, or f of 4 x and f of 5x. So I need basically 3 inputs and 1 ancilla qubit. So what is, okay, so let me just write down 3 inputs, and there is 1 ancilla, and this is this. So I will have, let's say, 3 generalized CNOT gate. Okay, so what is F1x? F1 means 1 means 0, 0, 1, right? So this is 0, 0, 1. So I'll have 0 here, 0 here, and 1 here. Then I'll apply a NOT gate here. This function is implemented, this first min term. The second min term, it is 4. Okay, 4 is 1, 0, 0. So 1, 0, 0. I'll have this. And then I have 5. So it is 0, 1, 1. Yeah, 1, 0, 1. 1, 0, 1. So it is 1, 0, 1. And then I'll have a NOT gate. Okay. Now here I'll observe something and I'll try to optimize whether can I reduce 1 or 2 CNOT gates. So I'm trying to find an equivalent circuit. Okay, so I'm trying to find an equivalent circuit. So this was 0, let's say. So now see here, this 2, first, the second and the third one. Okay, this values is exactly same. These controls are exactly same. Only the difference is the third one. Right? So the question will be, can I have only one generalized CNOT gate which can replace both of these, or which can act as like a combination of these two? So let me keep my this. Yeah, anyone wants to say anything?
We can completely ignore the third bit if first and second, and we can directly connect to ancilla bits, right?
No, if
Third input can be completely ignored and ancilla bit from first, second, sorry,
no,
C not from.
No, you have to have 3 inputs, right? I mean 3 qubits, because the input is you have 3, n equal to 3 here.
Yes sir, yes sir. I was telling for instead of drawing second and third gates, draw only one which were bold out for first one and square open circle for second one and directly C naught for ancilla. So instead of second and third. So
okay, I think what you are trying to say is,
and directly C naught for last.
Yeah. So it does not matter, because what is happening here does not matter. This gate is always acting. Okay, so both are acting. Okay, so one is acting when it is not, one is acting when it is 1. So it is 0 and it is 1. So both time it is acting. So it does not matter. Then you have actually reduced one gate from here. So then so here it is not equal. So then the question will be, what is the optimal way of doing it? Okay, so the question here is now, so we have a modified question here. Okay, design optimized circuits. Okay, and this is one of the fundamental problems in quantum computation when it comes to implementing these elementary functions. So design of optimal or optimized circuits. So optimized in a sense, the number of gates is minimum. And this is still open in a broader sense, but for some it is, some things are known. So there is a guy, I forgot his name, I think Lee et al. So I mean, it's I think around 2000 he published a paper on optimizing these quantum circuits. There are some rules like using which you can probably decide, okay, how many gates you'll require. Okay, but this is a genuine problem in quantum computation. So there is a way out, but still one has to think about this. Now the question is, so now since I have a way to implement, let us assume that we have a method, okay, to implement binary functions, okay, then can we now implement binary arithmetic or just simple arithmetic like addition, multiplication, division? Can we do that? So can we design quantum circuits for which we can implement, for example, addition, which can implement, let's say, multiplication and so on. Okay. So I'll give you an example. Okay. How to implement, let's say, a function like fx equal to x square. Okay. I'll do that. Okay. So now implementation or quantum circuit for fx equal to x square. Okay. And let's say my input space. So here you'll see that most of the times, okay, I'll have, okay, so given any integer, let's say, how many qubits? So if I give you any integer, let's say, for any integer, or you can assume that it's positive integer x, okay, let's say from 1 to capital N, if this is the integer, how many qubits you need to load this integer?
Log n.
Yes. So then for any of this, we require, obviously, we require n equal to log 2 n qubits to, let's say, load the integer. Okay. Now, if you want to have a quantum circuit, so this is n many qubits you already need, okay, to implement this. But now you are going to, for the output, it's x square. So if it needs n, then for x square, it will need 2n, right, for the output. So to load the output, let's say. However, to load the output or to store the output, let's say, output, we need 2n because it is log 2 of n square. Okay, 2n number of qubits. Okay. Yeah. So now let us make life very simple. Now let us say I have a 2-bit input. Okay, and I want to compute fx equal to x square. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is I have this table. So the function is, so I have just 2 bits, let's say x1 and x0. Okay, so my input are nothing but 0, 1, 2, 3. And I have to compute x square. So that means, okay, it is 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1. And my desired output, okay, my desired output are x square, which is 0, 1, 4, 9. This is what I want to compute. So if I write the 0, 1, 4, 9 in terms of bits, so it is 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1. Right? So I want to design a quantum circuit for which these inputs, okay, it will give me this output. Now see here, go back to my first, go back to the beginning of today's lecture. So here, this function is what basically? The function has domain 0, 1 square, but its codomain is actually 0, 1 to the power 4. Right? So basically what is happening? This function like 0, 0, okay, it will go to F4 because there are 4 digits here, 4 binary digits here. So this F can be implemented by implementing F1, F2, F3, and F4. These 4 functions. Now what is F1? F1 function, now I can write what is F1 function. F1 function is nothing but you have this inputs, let's say x1, x0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1. F1 is 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1. What is my F2? My F2 is 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0. My F3 is all 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And my F4 is 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. Now see, these are functions f1, f2, f3, f4, and these are the functions again which are from all these fj's, okay, j's from 0 to 4, let's say. So these functions are from 0, 1 square to 0, 1. Now I know how to implement these functions. So j equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. So what I need to do, I just need to see what are the minterms, and accordingly I can design my quantum circuit. Right. So for example, here, okay, so there are, okay, so how many alpha, let's first write how many, what is the input size? Input size is 2, n equal to 2. So I need to, if I want to draw a circuit, I need 2 inputs. For outputs, I need 4 possible qubits in order to store or load my output. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I need basically 6, okay, qubits. Okay, now first I need to implement, let's say f1. So f1 I know already, okay, that what is this minterm here? There is only one minterm, that is 1 only when both are 1, right? Now can anybody tell me what will be the circuit here?
It'll be x1 dot
Toffoli gate.
x2 dot, yeah, Toffoli.
What is it?
Toffoli gate.
Regular Toffoli.
So you want this one here? So Toffoli means what? What are the
Dot,
the
like solid dot plus.
C naught, huh?
solid dot C naught?
Yes, solid dot plus. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Then okay. So let me write it. And then what will happen?
It'll go to the fourth line and it'll be plus.
Fourth one. Okay, 1, 2, 3, fourth. Okay. And then we have everything is 0. For everything 0, what will you do?
We won't do. We'll just put XOR at ancilla.
Don't do anything. Like why
Don't do
do?
anything.
Why do?
Yeah, don't do anything. Okay, for F4 we have two minterms. So then two more this generalized C naught gate will come. One is for this one, and one is for this one, right? So for the first one we'll have 0, 1, right? So 0, 1. So for that we'll have this one, and another one is both 1. Now they just tell me whether it is correct or not.
It is correct, but we can merge the last two.
Okay, so this is correct. Okay, then you are saying that this can be equivalent to something else, right? This can be optimized. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, so probably it can be done like this. Okay, you tell me what can be done. Okay,
So
so
the last two can be replaced by just putting dot on the second line and plus on the last line.
okay, so this is homework. Okay, it can be done. Yes, so you can actually need at most. So I'm running out of time. So this is homework. Okay, so you actually need 3 generalized C naught gate. Okay, so there will be 3 this thing. Okay, so let me draw it a different way. Then you have to tell me whether. Just a minute. What? Oh. Yeah, so. Oh. Oh, so this is deleted? What did it? Oh, this got deleted, I think. But anyway, you can watch the lecture, okay? I don't know how it got deleted. Anyway, so that can be optimized. Yeah, okay, that can be optimized. Now, so the basic question is now you can do that. Now the question is it what is the advantage of quantum then? Okay, so it is basically we are doing the classical thing and just I'm implementing circuit. So I'm not using the basic property of quantum, let's say superposition. I'm not using entanglement. So there is nothing quantum here except the quantum gate. Okay, which possibly can be implemented also using classical gates. So what is the quantum here? Okay, now the quantumness will come if you look at what should be. Oh, I deleted this now. Okay, so okay, you could take any circuit, for example, this one, or maybe just let me just write once more. So let me, I mean, I don't know. Okay, let me just recall and write it down. There are two things here. Yeah, I'm doing the F4 first. So this, and then I think there was. And there was another. Yeah, and which can be equivalent written as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can check. Okay, this one. Okay, so the thing is, what is so quantum here? Nothing quantum, in fact. So except the quantum gates, we didn't say anything about the quantum thing. The quantum thing about this is, if we just change the input, instead of taking different inputs like 0, 0, 0. So every time you suppose for this, okay, sorry, for this 0, 0, I'll have some. So these are all 0, by the way. So these are 0, 0, okay, or this could be 1, 0, okay, 1, 0, 1, 1, okay, or 0, 1. So I'll not do four. I don't want to do it 4 times because I want to use the principle that I can take a superposition of all this and I will give that as an input to this circuit, this input circuit. And then everything will be computed at one go. So what I'm trying to tell you is you consider, okay, because I want to use that principle that UF, okay, so UF is the quantum circuit, let's say, which will implement this. So this will act on the, let's say, the superposition, some alpha x, x. So this is my superposition and I have some extra y. Okay, this is my entire thing, entire qubit. And let's say some x equal to 1 to 2 to the power n minus 1, whatever it is, let's say n qubit. So then this will act on individual thing, and then this has to give me x equal to 1 to 2 to the power n minus 1. So this will act upon this individual things, and this will be alpha x, x, and then this will be y plus f of x. So for example, for the case of our function, let's say fx equal to x squared, what we can possibly do is we'll give only one input, and input could be like superposition of all this. I'm telling you why it is this, because if I take this, so this everything can be done in one go. So then I take let's say a qubit here, which is 0, and then once we apply this u, once we apply this u, then what will happen is this will turn into half, okay, 0, 0 plus 1, 1 plus 2, 4 plus 3, 9. So this 4, 9 are nothing but those 0, 0, 0, 0, all these outputs. Okay. So basically this fx equal to fx equal to x square for this circuit, I can just give this as an input. Okay, this just an input and just check what is happening to my output. So this is the homework. So just to think about what we are doing. I am running out of time, so that's why I'm giving you this homework. And see, what I'm saying is you can do it in one go, you don't have to do it for all individual inputs. You can just give it a let's say a superposition of all possible inputs, and then give an extra this thing UF, extra qubit here. This is 0, and then you see whether you get this or not. So this is the exploitation of the use of the superposition. But then there is another catch, that I need to again measure this, whether I get 0, 1, 4, or 9. Okay, depending on whether my square of this is, let's say, 0 or not, square of this is 1 or not, square of this is 4 or not, square of this is 9 or not. So I have to give perform some measurement, okay, with respect to, let's say, the computational basis, in order to decide what is the square of my input. Okay, because I'll get all this with some probabilities. Okay. Anyway, so think about this thing. Okay. Now what we will discuss is, which is one of the fundamental algorithms in quantum computing. Okay, same thing you can do it for, okay, I gave you one exercise in this thing in the homework, like how to implement addition, right? I have to implement addition, modular addition I gave you using Fourier transformation. But you can also use this kind of a thing, this kind of a circuit, okay, the way we discussed for the square of a function. Square means it's multiplication basically, but I took the simplest one, x square only. You can talk about also x times some y, and you can do that. And so if I replace this multiplication by addition, then how to go about it? Okay, now we'll talk about one of the, because I want to finish this algorithm part today. So we want to talk about one of the first algorithms where there was, an edge over classical computation. Let's say people could see like this is what is happening, is a Deutsch algorithm. So here, Deutsch algorithm. Here, the algorithm is about. This algorithm is about. Okay, so you have some functions, right? Okay, so let's say we consider only these bit functions. These are all also called Boolean functions. Okay. Now, how many functions are there? There are 4 functions, 2 to the power 2. Okay, there are 4 functions. Now, I want to decide whether out of these 4 functions, okay, there are 2 functions which are constant. Okay. Okay, let me just write it down. So x, and then there are 4 functions, f1, f2, f3, and f4. So these are like 0 and 1. So f1 could be 0, 0. F1, F2 could be, or maybe I can write 0. Oh, anyway, it doesn't matter. So 0, 1, and here I can write 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1. These are 4 functions. Okay. Now, out of these 4 functions, these 2 functions are constant. F1 is constant. F4 is also constant. And in these 2 functions, okay, this is not a constant function. So I can just say, like, I want to distinguish whether a function, I want to test whether a function is constant or not. I want to test. Okay, such a function is given, okay, from 0, 1 to 0, 1. I want to test that whether the function is, I do not know the function, but I just want to distinguish whether this function is constant or not. But instead of saying not a constant function, here I'll use a property. I'll say whether this function is balanced or not. It's called a balance function. Balance means number of 0 is equal to number of 1 here. Okay, number of 0 is equal to 1, number of 1 is also 1, number of 1 is also 1, number of 0 is equal to 0. So number of 1 as an output is equal to number of zeros and as an output. Okay, so for this, because I am saying this because we want to generalize this. So in fact, we want to talk about 0 and to the power n, and then we'll say whether a function is constant or balanced, meaning there are many inputs, okay, to the power n number of inputs, and in that case, I will also treat a non-constant function as a balanced function. Okay, if number of zeros in the output is exactly equal to number of inputs for that particular number of 0 as an output is exactly equal to number of ones, okay, in the output for that particular function, then I'll call it a balanced function. Okay. Now the thing is, I want to test whether a function is balanced or not. Okay, and here is a simple algorithm, okay, which shows the power of this quantum. Now the thing is, in a class, okay, if you want to do it classically, how many queries you need to do? So what is the value of f at less x equal to 0? Either you'll get 0 or 1. From there, you cannot conclude whether the function is constant or not, or balance. Okay, constant, and this is constant. Constant or balance. You cannot do that. So you need at least 2 queries. You need to use at least 2 queries. In fact, you need exactly 2 queries to decide whether the function is balanced or constant. But this guy, Deutsch, so he said, okay, we can do it in quantum. We need only, if you use quantum algorithm, I mean the quantum mechanics principle, then we can do it using only 1 query. It is enough to do. Okay, so what it did is that, as we said, like any function can be implemented. Okay, any such function f1, f2, f3, f4, any such function can be implemented using a unitary transformation. Okay, we said UF, okay, which will take x, y, some y is the ancillary here. Okay, and let's say it will take this to x and then y plus f of x, right? So it will take it this way. Now I'll give you the circuit, and what he's doing here is I'll tell you. Okay, let me just give you the circuit. So he says you do this. Take 0 as the input and 1 as the output. Sorry, the ancillary. Then here, you first use the Hadamard gate, and then here you evaluate this UF, the function, whatever the function is. You have the corresponding circuit here, and here you apply a Hadamard gate, and then you apply a Hadamard gate here, and here you perform a measurement. Okay, and here you perform a measurement. So this sometimes this is a notation for measurement. Okay, and you don't care about here. This is the circuit to test, okay, whether a function is balanced or not. So what he is doing basically, he is first doing what? What is the input of UF now? See, input of UF is what? For 0, I'm applying Hadamard gate. Okay. And 1, I am also applying Hadamard gate. So whatever my input is, it could be 0 or 1. So for any such 0 or 1, what I have is input for UF is nothing but x, depending on whether this input is 0 or 1, x. And when this qubit for this one, it is Hadamard is applied on this one. It is H1. Okay, H1 you already know, so you can just directly write that. So which is what is H1? Hadamard gate. If we apply this on 1 to 2, 0 minus, that minus, because Hadamard takes plus and minus. There's this one. So this is actually the input for this thing, UF. And what does UF does? What does UF do? UF does nothing. It keeps this input fixed and here add this thing, right? This is what this does. So this will be what? UF, I mean, you can take out 1 by root 2. UF x 0 minus, sorry, UF x 1. So depending on your function, okay, it will do something. Ultimately, what I can write? X will be fixed. Okay, let me write it. X will be fixed, and 0 plus fx will be here, minus fx is still ufx is still x, and 1 will be replaced by 1 plus, I mean this plus is circle plus, modulo plus, and then it is fx. Now fx could be either 0 or 1. So can you simplify this a little bit? Now what is happening if fx equal to 0? Now see here, the beauty of this is this is the magic. Okay, so this is the trick he used. If fx equal to 0, then this remain fixed, this remain fixed. Is fx equal to 1, this changes to 0, and this changes to fx is 1, this changes 0 changes to 1, and this changes to 0. So what I did is this can be written as this. So this is the trick. X times 1 by root 2, 0 minus 1. Now what is this? You say C. why this is correct. Now, if just to see whether this is correct, okay, you can just So why this is correct? If fx equal to 0, then what will happen? This will be unchanged. This is -1 to the power 0, which is 1. So see, if fx equal to 0, it is remaining the same. X times 0 minus x times 1, x times 1. Now, if fx equal to 1, this minus will get multiplied here. So then it will be x times 0 here, x times 0, but there will be a minus. So, but here you see fx equal to 1, this will actually be x times 0. So this minus is actually here. Similarly here, when it will act fx equal to 1, this minus will again act here, it will be plus, and then this time will be here, and this time will be here. So when fx equal to 1, this term will just interchange. So everything is same basically. You understand this? This is just a simple trick. I mean, this is same as this when fx equal to 0 or fx equal doesn't matter. For any x, it will happen. So this is this trick. I mean, this is called the phase factor. Okay, phase factor kickback. This is the word people use, kicked back, because this is a trick many people use in many algorithms. In fact, if you read just quantum the search algorithm, Google search algorithm, you also use the same trick. This is kicked back in front of the first qubit. Okay. So now, then what happens? What is the state of the quantum computer? Because this is the output, UF, this is the output. Now again, you are applying the Hadamard gate here on the first one. So again, you are applying on X, you are applying Hadamard gate. So what will happen?
But we are not really checking all values of X, right? X in this case will be 0, just the plus state. It will be 0 plus 1 by root 2, right? Because
no, X is your input. X could be 0 or X could be 1. This is X. So instead of writing this, you can write just X.
Then you'll have to write HX, right? So because there is Hadamard gate, so you are looking actually at UFHX, right?
Yeah.
So that should be there, right? So we did not do that, right? 0 plus 1 by root 2.
Yeah. So, okay, just a minute. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I'll come to that. Okay. So now see here. So this is what will happen if you have anything UF acting on this one. Okay. EF acting on this one. This is what is going to happen. X times this. And X could be here 0 or 1. Now this X could be 0 or 1. But here initially, if you assume that X to be equal to 0, and then we apply Hadamard gate, then what will happen? So this state will be for input here. This state actually UF will be applied on, instead of this X, you will have 1 by root 2, 0 plus 1, right? Because we are applying Hadamard gate. We are applying Hadamard gate on the 0 state. So this will be 0 plus 1, right?
Right.
This, yeah. So this X.
It'll be 0 plus 1, right?
Yeah, sure. So this will be 0 plus this thing. And then there is an fx here. And if x equal to 0, the same is f0 here, and x equal to 1, this is f0. So this is nothing but, okay, let me rephrase this a little bit. So, I mean, if I directly write the outcome here, because I know already that input. So this is my output, right? Okay, for that input, so x equal to here is h times 0, so which is, let's say, 1 by root 2, 0 plus 1. Yeah, you are right. Yeah, 0 plus 1. So then the output of this, then the output of UF, okay, is what? Is -1, right? To the power F0, 0 plus -1 to the power F1, 1, right? And there will be half. Oh, sorry, 1 by root 2 times this 1 by root 2, 0 minus 1. Yeah. Okay. Is that okay?
Okay. Yes.
So here what we did first is like UF when it is acting on some any X. Okay, so this is what is happening. Now we are in the circuit. I forgot about the circuit. So the circuit is, let's say this is 0. We're giving this an input and then we're applying H. So my X here, this X here is nothing but 1 by root 2, 0 plus half, 0 plus 1. This is my X. So I just write that here. Okay, so then I have this. Okay, now this is no longer used. Okay, this is no longer used in the circle, let's say. Now again, I'll apply the Hadamard gate here on the first one. So if I apply the Hadamard gate, so this is my joint state in the output. So this is my first qubit. And this is my second qubit. Now applying Hadamard gate on the first one, on the first qubit, what do we have? If I apply the Hadamard gate here, so Hadamard gate will first act on this one, then it will act on this one, right? So then, okay, we obtain -1 to the power F0. And here again 1 by root 2. So here I can directly say half will come out. I mean 1 by root 2 will come out. And this is 0 plus 1 plus -1 to the power F1, right? And if it acts on this, Hadamard acts on this one, so it is this. Is that okay? Now I make it in the qubit form. So this half, so -1 to the power F0 plus -1 to the power F1. Okay, and let me write a bracket here. This times 0 plus plus I have -1 to the power F0. Okay, plus -1 to the power F1. Okay, 1. This is my minus. This is 1. I do a lot of calculation mistake. You guys have to check. Okay, so yeah, so this is what will happen. Now I want to perform a measurement here. Now what will happen if I do a measurement, let's say with respect to the computational basis? Now two things can happen. F is either constant or balanced. Okay. Now if F is constant, then F0 equal to F1. I don't know whether F is constant or not because I don't know what UF is. UF is the inbuilt, let's say, unitary transformation, okay, which implements the function F. Then what will happen? What will happen to the state, entire state, if F0 equal to F1? This will be.
In second term will be 0.
This will be 0. So now if I measure, I'll always get 0 with probability 1. Okay. And if F0 is not equal to F1, then what? F0 is not equal to F1 means F0 is 1, then F1 should be equal to 0. Or if F0 equal to 0, then F1 will be equal to 1. If they are different, then this guy will vanish. And I will obtain 1 with unit probability. So it does not matter whether F is constant or not constant, balance, if this, that is f is balanced. If I measure this qubit, okay, with respect to my computational basis, either I'll get 0 or I'll get 1, right? So if I get 0, then I'll make sure that the probability 1 I'll get 0, right? So the function is constant. If I get 1, function is balanced. And here I just use one time UF. So I have only single call of UF. So with this single call, using this quantum, I can decide for this function that it is constant or a balanced function. There's a lot of mosquitoes nowadays here. Anyway, so yeah, so you understand this? Or should I repeat this again? So f is constant means here f0 is equal to f1. So if f0 equal to 1, this guy will vanish. So I do not know whether it's constant or not, but if it is constant, this is automatically vanished. This term is not there. So the only I have this 0 state here. So if I measure this, I'll obviously get 0 with probability 1. So if I measure it 100 times, I'll get 100 times 0. And if it would have been, the function would have been balanced, not constant, then this part vanished. And I only have this state is nothing but equal to 1. That means if I measure this with computational basis, I'll always get 1, okay, with unit probability. So for any case, if I get 0, I'll say it is constant. If I get 1, state 1, then I'll say that this is balanced. So and I use only one time this query function, which is not possible in classical computation. Classical computation, you need to call 2 times. So this is the advantage of having quantum. This is the first instance of an algorithm, okay, where you can use quantum mechanics to reduce the complexity, or at least the query complexity. How many queries you need to decide something. Yeah.
So this is just because we are using a reversible gate, right? So if we used in classical also, if we had, so the UF is the matrix representation of the functions f, right? If say we define some function f, whose, so in classical also, if it is reversible, then UF would be a matrix, and even in that case we'll have 2 outputs, and we could have done the same for classical as well, right?
No. So you can do that. You can test, but this is the use of Hadamard gate, and Hadamard gate has no classical analog because of this matrix is one by Hadamard gate is actually helping us to do this. With that, so this is nothing but superposition, because Hadamard gate introduced superposition, right? It takes 0 to this. So Hadamard gate has no also analog in classical, because the matrix here is not a 0-1 matrix. The matrix here, the gate, the matrix involves also 1 by root 2, right? And -1 also. So that it has no analog in this thing.
Right.
So yeah, so the generalization of this is called which I'll not discuss. I'll leave it maybe a homework. Deutsch. I mean the same this thing, the same circuit, but instead of one input 0, we'll have n inputs 0 0 0 0 0. Okay, n times. That's it. And this one Hadamard gate, you'll have h to the power n, like n times Hadamard gate, because each Hadamard gate is acting on each individual qubit 0 locally. So same circuit. So Deutsch Joshua algorithm. So this algorithm is nothing but it's a generalization of Deutsch algorithm, and it's something but you have this function f from 0 1 to the power n to 0 1, and you have to decide given a function. So decide how many how many let's say the queries you will need to answer this. That f is constant. Okay, constant means okay, so everything's same. Or so input here is also, so only there are 2 kinds of input for the, I mean we are only treating either, because there can be functions which are not constant and not balanced. But suppose you are given the set of functions from this 0 to the 1 to the power n to 0, 1, which are either constant or balanced. Then you have to decide whether it is balanced or constant. It's constant or balanced. Okay, and how do you do it? So the same thing, you have to just apply the same this thing. You have instead of x here, I'm saying what is called a circuit. So if you have x here, you can, so you have this superposition, or you can write this 0 could be equal to the 0, 0, okay, 0 n times, okay, n times, and you have to apply Hadamard gate here. So Hadamard gate will be of this type, H, H, H. And first, the way we did it, okay, maybe I'll just write it down. So this, when it acts on some x, what happens? What happens if it acts on x? Any x, let's say, x equal to, let's say, let x is some qubit corresponding to, let's say, this xn minus 1, xn minus 2, x naught. I mean, it's n qubit, let's say, whatever the value, 0, 1, doesn't matter.
It will
Okay,
become
whatever it is.
hxn minus 1 tensor, hxn minus 2 tensor, and so on.
Yeah, so it will be, yeah. So after that, what will happen? Like if you keep on doing this, you will have an explicit, representation, right? So what will be that?
Superposition of all possible states, 1 by root n times 0, 0, n times plus.
Okay, and if you write that in terms of, yeah, so write this. The way I did it here, basically, exactly the same thing. So h of x, first you have to do this. Yeah, this is what is h of x, right? Yeah, this is what is h of x, right? This one, the first cube, where it is h of x. Oh, no, here, h of x, okay? So this is written in terms of my computational basis, okay? So you have to do the same thing, h of x. Yeah, so just write it down, and then what we have to do is this, hn times identity, and then uf, this will be the corresponding, a little bit different, corresponding this thing, hn times, I mean, it's the same thing, right? This will first act on this, and then this will act corresponding UF, and then this will act, because we will again have to apply Hadamard, and then this is identity 1. And let us take the input to be 0, 0, 0, everything is 0 n times, and then 1. So this is 1. So if you do that, then just check what you get and how many times you need to call F. Okay. In fact, you'll see it is also the single query, right? There will be a single query. But the thing is, how many queries you need to answer this question for the case of classical algorithm? Or this constant or balance?
It will be n. It will be 2 power n. 2 power n.
No, not 2 power n, but
n only, right?
Balance means number of 0 is same as number of 1. So at least you have to check 2 to the power n by 2, like half of this, right? I mean, if half of them are 0, half of them are 1 in the output, and there are 2 to the power, what I'm saying.
Yes.
We need to know all values, right? Like we need to check all values, then 2 power n.
Yeah, 2 to the power n by 2, right? Plus 1, maybe extra we have to check one more. So it is like 2 to the power n by 2, 2 to the power n classically, let's say. Classically, 2 to the power n by 2 plus 1. One more we have to check.
We still need 2 power n, right?
Queries.
For constant, we still need 2 power n.
Yeah. So, but here actually there is a problem. So it is not an exponential period actually. It is not like this is actually we don't require, because each time you measure, each time you use 1, okay, then there will be a reduction in the sense of every time if you if you just read this classical computation for this kind of function, you'll see that every time you use that, okay, then the probability of the same response every time will be actually 1 by 2 to the power k minus 1. This probability will reduce where the k is the number of function queries. I mean, I am not going into the detail side because it is very long, but K is the number of function queries. So it is not is actually exponential speed. The advantage is not exponential function queries. Okay, so this will drastically reduce every time you keep on using this. The probability will actually drop, and number of queries will actually be equal to. So the probability of error is, let's say, some epsilon. This will some epsilon accuracy will do this, and the number of queries K will be actually some, if I remember it correctly, some order of log. I think some constant times, or let's something like this. Okay, or maybe some constant time this. Yeah, so it is something like this. Okay, so it is not an exponential bit, but of course, here you are doing it at one go, but here you have to do many more times depending on the error epsilon. Okay, so this you can probably find it in any algorithm book where they talk about this thing. But what I'm trying to tell you here is there is an advantage. Okay, if you use quantum here, and the same thing you have to do nothing. Same computation, same everything is same. Only thing is that, so this is the circuit. Okay, this is the circuit here. Same circuit you have to use instead of one qubit gate. Okay, you just have to use one qubit. You have to use n qubits, and you have to use n Hadamard gates. That's it. Okay, so I think, yeah, so I'll stop here. Okay, next day I think I'll start something new. I'll not continue about. Yeah.
So the output can still just measure if it's a constant or not constant, right?
What?
So the
yeah,
output,
but there is a problem. Okay, this yeah. So output can be still it is constant or not? Yeah. That yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so the output. So the output can take many measurement values, right? In this case, 0, 1, 2, 3, so on, because it's of size n, so it belongs to a larger Hilbert space. So there will be different measurements, right? So
No. It is only, actually I had some problem anyway. So it is
okay,
with
okay.
unit probability. Unit probability, it can be decided either 0 or, so it is constant or balance. Actually, my two of my tooth have been extracted. Okay, so 2 days back. So I'm speaking for a long time. So that's why I choose. Okay, so the thing is, so this will come again with the same thing, the same logic. Okay, with unit probability. Okay, with unit probability, it is constant or it is balanced with 0 probability. Same thing. Same logic you can apply.
Okay.
It's bleeding, so I have to every time put some.
Okay, sir. Okay, yeah.
Some tissue inside my mouth. Yeah.
Okay, sir.
You have any other question? You can ask if you have.